And again, I'm doing a combination of Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, trying something to kind of get all the followers in some way or another.
Yeah, that's always difficult, trying to get everything in one forum.
It is.
Yep.
So, a pleasure to everyone. Dr. Rob Kiltz with Zac. Is it Solt or Salt?
Solt with it. It's like salt with an O.
Yeah. No, I love it. I'm really excited. Rivero Health, you've done coaching, and really glad to have you on and talk a little bit about your history in the carnivore world, health and wellness coaching, because we need more and more coaches and cheerleaders in this whole process. So we're streaming live Facebook and YouTube, but I also have my Instagram kind of following this also. So introduce yourself to us, Zac, and tell a little bit about yourself, how we can share this with so many people in this globe.
Yeah, like you said, my name's Zac Solt. I'm a Rivero carnivore coach. I actually am located in Phoenix, Arizona. I've been carnivore now for about 8 months. I actually started Carnivore Diet as a method of actually saving my life. I was addicted to drugs. I was addicted to alcohol. My life was pretty much going down the wrong track. Obviously, with drugs and alcohol, there's other things like poor food choices that go with that. I got to the point where I almost lost my family. I saw, so for me, carnivore saved my life, and in more than one way. Not only did it allow me to get my health back on track, but it allowed me to kind of see what was important with my family, my wife, I have 2 beautiful kids. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about today is how carnivore is actually integrated as a family dynamic now, which is really cool. So 7 or 8 months ago, I was at a pretty low point in my life, and I know that I needed to change. I knew that a lot of it had to do with addiction. So I started, researching addiction and figuring out what helps with that. And, a lot of it tied into the foods that we eat, our sugar addictions or addiction to eating carbs. We think that we need carbs every 2 hours when we really don't. So that, landed me in this space, and I started seeing you were one of the first doctors that I saw. So thank you. And I appreciate everything you've done. There's a few other Dr. Anthony Chafee, Dr. Sean Baker. I mean, you guys are the giants of the shoulders of, I'm standing on your shoulders. So I really appreciate that. And that's why I wanted to talk and tell my story. So,
well, this is important. I mean, we're all working together, and, this idea that what I'm finding in this carnivore world, and maybe more so than the keto world, is there's this sort of uplifting and shoulders, as you said, and health and wellness. And I know I used to drink alcohol way too much. And I would say I was addicted to it. It was sort of like every day, every evening. It was, you'd go out with the buddies, you'd have wine, and you'd have a full-on carbohydrate meal. I mean, I've been a steak eater for years, but it took me a while to finally go from paleo to keto and then to carnivore. Yeah. And so how did you get introduced to, what sort of, you just start listening and learning from the keto carnivore world, or did someone say, hey, Zac, have you looked at this stuff to help with, we're all have an addiction. I'm convinced of that. So tell us how it's like the light went off.
The main thing that started happening was I noticed that all the things that seemed to work were the things that people thought were crazy. And initially, so my wife's actually a naturopathic doctor. So their training and their schooling is very big on vegetables and, just the plant-based kind of thing. So when I initially found it and I found Carnivore Diet, I was every day I was listening to videos, I was researching, I was going through different papers that people had posted. And I also went into a lot of the anthropology behind it, a lot of the, what humans have been eating for, 300,000+ years. And, initially what I found was all the things that we were taught and all the schools of theory on what we're supposed to eat were wrong. and that half of, all of the diseases that we have presently are currently, they're one thing. Typically they're caused by one problem. And then once you see that, you kind of see how everything has pushed people into being, a consumer, right? Eat more, eat a little bit of this, eat a little bit of this. And then, after a while, human beings are the only people that need to be told what to eat. Every other species just gets up and goes about what they're going to eat, and they eat a natural diet and they don't get sick. Right. So when society and the government started telling us what we're supposed to eat, everybody started getting sick, and then for me, I actually tied in an addiction to sugar and carbohydrates with all the other things that I was addicted to, because one would lead to another, right? I would get a hangover, and what do I want to do? Oh, I want to get Thai food, or I want to get this, or I want to get that. And it actually became a habit. So I would drink alcohol or do drugs, and the next day I would feel terrible, so that kind of led into it. And nobody really told me. As a matter of fact, everybody that I had told that I was doing carnivore diet, they thought I was insane, including my wife. She was like, this isn't going to last. You're going to feel, you're going to feel terrible. She was kind of against it at first. And I was like, well, you know what? I have to try something, because what I'm doing, it's not working. Right. And I've actually had a CAC score done since, and it turns out I was actually pretty much on track to die from heart disease. Right. I got a 137 in my LAD, which is not good.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm 37.
Wow.
That's not good. Right. And maybe some of that's from drug use, but if I had not done any of these things, I wouldn't have even known to think about that. So who knows if I'd even be here in 5 years.
Well, it's kind of interesting, because ultimately the dietary directions we've been given are ultimately all an addictive process. And, I think of it as ultimately we are the lions that would have been led astray to eat the mush that the masters, who are the experts telling us what's healthy for us, ultimately we become all addicted. And it's carbohydrates, it's alcohol, but drugs, and all of that is kind of part of our amusement park life, that's kind of where we've all fallen into. We're in this amusement park. And, I'm sure, I was hanging out with people like you and I, which are all sort of part of our society. And, the naturopaths, the healthcare experts, the nutritionists, the doctors, which even all my pals and buddies that are experts in healthcare, it's all about things that turned out to be the cause of all our diseases. And you say a carbohydrate, like even a vegetable, is it?
I mean, so everything that's plant, if you put a plant into your body, it breaks down into sugar, right? And yes, some, absorb faster or whatnot, or raise insulin more than others, but there is no physiological process in your body that requires you to eat plants or sugar or carbohydrates or fiber. There's no process in your body. There's no essential carbohydrate, no essential fiber. Any sugar that your body needs, it actually produces it very efficiently and very well. So to me, it's just one of those things that, like you said, it's an addiction. And I keep telling people that the clients and people that I've helped, if you can't go more than a few hours without feeling terrible, that's the same side effect that I used to get when I would drink alcohol or do drugs. It's the exact same. There's no difference, right? So we have to get out of this mindset.
Which ultimately, and I can't remember where I read this, and basically sugar, 85% of sugars are not sweet. And as you said, plants ultimately are mostly sugar, and there's an opiate receptor that the sugar stimulates, which makes us feel on top of the world, right? We feel like we'd do anything. Mm-hmm. And there's always this discussion, well, sugar's your energy, when in fact, it's not your energy. It's simply an opiate receptor stimulator that makes us feel good, feel on top of the world. And in essence, alcohol and drugs and carbohydrates fuel that same feeling. And so we go up and then we go down, and there's that drive to have it throughout the day.
Right. Yep. So another thing that I did when I first started researching this is, mm-hmm. all the diets that people would recommend for disease were ketogenic in nature, right? So carnivore, keto diet. And, I would see these videos and these very smart doctors, but they would say this thing like, oh, the treatment for this, epilepsy is ketogenic diet. And it said, okay, well, the treatment for cancer is fasting or ketogenic diet. That helps, right? So the one thing that nobody's really putting together is that these aren't treatments for disease. We were supposed to be eating this diet to begin with. Disease is caused by deviating from that diet, right? We get in this mindset, oh, well, we need to do this for a little while to make the disease go away. No, when you go back to what you were doing, you're going to get the same results that you had before.
So
right?
What does the wife think? And so she thought, okay, you're a little crazy. What are you doing? This is not good for you. Has she looked differently at it since you've been on this journey? How many months now, or years? How long?
8. I've been strict carnivore for 8 months. So initially, like I said, she thought I was crazy. That only lasted for about 2 months. Once she saw what was happening, and a big thing. So she's a doctor, a naturopathic doctor. We talk about poop a lot in the house, right? Once I literally started showing her, hey, look at my poop. This is like perfect. This is what they talk about, what you're supposed to have, right? And she's like, wow, that's amazing. I've never seen that. I actually I had Crohn's for probably 2 years a while back, and it kind of would come and go. It's gone now. I mean, for a fact, it cured Crohn's disease, and it hasn't come back at all. And she is now fully carnivore. She still does a little bit of fruit. She's breastfeeding, so I can't really, I didn't really want her to change her diet too much, but she eats more meat than me now. She comes home and she's like, can I have a steak? And I said, absolutely. So now it's become a huge thing for the family. My kids have fully adopted it. I have a 4-year-old daughter named Zoe and an 18-month-old son named Zen. And these kids love to eat meat.
And it is an interesting thing. So what I've come to realize, and this is some of the facts that most people don't know, is that the mitochondria, which is the ATP energy producing a particle of the cell, uses acetyl-CoA that comes from fatty acids, not from sugar. So glucose must be converted in the liver to fat or you die. Amino acids must be converted to sugar, then fat in the liver, or you die. And the liver and insulin and functional liver are both required for survival. So interesting enough, because I hear about fruits and women who are breastfeeding or pregnant, a full-on carnivore, fatty meat, no fruits, no vegetable, no seeds, no nuts, is the healthiest thing that anyone can do, because there's no requirement for vegetables, fruit, fiber, seeds, or nuts. And as you mentioned, plants, the carbs, have no requirement in our diet ever.
Right.
And so,
I think to watch her transition, she's been, it started with her just being against it, right? And then slowly she would, and this is a transition I've seen other clients and other people that want to become carnivore, go through. They initially will just try eating more meat, and then they will slowly start to pull things away. And she's gotten to the point now where she's pulled, now it's very little fruit. And I've noticed, I'm like, are you doing it out of habit? Do you think, I don't really think that you even like it, right? Because if I give you a giant steak, you'll eat that whole thing. I've watched her do it. She'll eat all the meat. Yeah, well, so I think sometimes it's a habit.
Well, it is. I mean, I do my ice cream from time to time. For me, I personally believe that life is to be rewarded and treated from time to time. Now, if you have an addiction that, that one cigarette or that one drug or that one glass of alcohol or that one sweet taste of sugar is going to get you, don't touch it. But I think as you build an understanding of the value of your miracle machine, right? The human body. And I bet this has been such a game change for your attitude of life. And we could talk about that too, because, it's not just the physical nature. It's the emotional attitude. Can you maybe speak to that a little bit?
So that's the big thing that I push when when I deal with a new client. The first thing I say is, listen, carnivore is not a weight loss thing. It's a lifestyle. And what I mean by that is the goal for me is to change your relationship with food, right? Because you now have a physiological addiction to doing something multiple times a day. You're doing it not because you're hungry or you want to be satiated. You're doing it because you're attached to that mechanism. So changing your relationship with food means I know that I'm doing this because, I need to nurture my body, not because I want to satisfy some craving that I'm having. So, eliminating cravings is one of the first things that happen. Is I have no desire to eat something, that I don't want or don't need in my body. And when, I see a nice big steak, then I get hungry, right? And then you actually start to feel that physiologically, like, okay, yes, this is what's good for me. And that's why every time somebody says, hey, don't you ever get tired of eating a ribeye every day? And I say, absolutely not, because it feels amazing, right?
And I remind everyone, and maybe I'll just pull this because Will and I are having this for our dinner.
Cat.
And every night. So you're married. People have girlfriends, boyfriends, husbands, and wives. We don't get tired of them. Well, maybe we do from time to time, but ultimately, narrow as the arrow is the best way to live in life. And this idea of an amusement park life, right? I have to have this and that and variety and spice. I say those are the deadliest things of life. And ultimately, narrow as an arrow is really the rocket amazing. And literally, I eat about half to a third of the ribeye. This is a little smaller than usually the one I buy, which is actually a fifth, which is all you need. I always say about that much is kind of what I eat in the day.
Right.
And I eat one time a day at night. Tell me about your daily eating habit and what you think and why you think that's important to do the one time.
That has actually changed for me over the course of becoming carnivore. Initially, when I first switched over, it was very natural to eat 2 or 3 times a day. Now I can really only eat once a day, or I actually don't feel that great, and that's something that you kind of have to learn on your own. People say, "Wait, you only eat once a day?" And I say, I really don't want to eat more than that. I know that sounds weird when you're coming from where you're at to there, but and that's the thing is that you don't get to listen to your body's natural mechanisms like that when you're addicted to carbohydrates. One meal a day, which is usually I like to, after I'm done with the gym. So, midday, I'll eat a ribeye. I might eat some eggs and stuff with it. I try to get a mixture of cartilage and all the cartilage and the backs of ribs and stuff are my favorite because that's where all the collagen is. So my focus is eating the whole, even bone marrow and stuff like that. So we cycle through a lot of different types of meat, but we try to stick with mostly ruminant animals. So lamb, cow, or beef.
That's probably what we've been eating for thousands and thousands of years. We probably weren't eating a lot of squirrels or chickens or fish. No. Ultimately, we're land hunting animals. There's one question from Fatima about chances of pregnancy being increased. And I know for me, I sort of started in the paleo world because I had patients 15 years ago getting pregnant on paleo. And I'm like, what is this? I had no idea. Us doctors know zero about what a diet is anyway. And in some ways, even nutritionists don't even really know the true way that we're learning. But I went then keto. And then for me, when I went carnivore over 10 years ago, game changed. I tell everyone keto is for the masses and carnivore is for the master class. and pregnancy all day long. I have women in their 40, 44, 42, 48 getting pregnant on carnivore, miscarriages, carnivore babies all day long. And so this is the game changer for health and wellness. And I know how Dr. Baker is moving at this and, Ken Berry and so many others that are really sort of helping Anthony Chafee and really helping fuel the fire of why carnivore is like the game changer. And tell us a little bit about how you as a coach and how what you're learning from that experience being a carnivore coach and who's coming to you and what are their thoughts and feelings?
Yeah, initially, when people hear me talk about it, so I actually have a Facebook group with I think we're at like 500 or so folks that I coach kind of daily, and
Wow.
I share a lot of information from you and other docs. And the main thing that I see people is it's not really, so they can adopt the diet. It's really all the things that come with it that are social, like needing to feel like, oh, I don't want to go out and not be able to order what I want, or I don't want the family to think that, I'm crazy, or, what if it becomes too expensive? So to me, the big hump on carnivore diet or moving into that is getting past those mental blocks. So it's more of a mental thing, because once you give somebody a steak and they eat it, it's delicious. Like, wow, this is the most natural thing on the planet. This feels great. Yeah, exactly. So, and you don't know that until you've been there, but I've had a lot of people give me a really hard time and want to argue with me. And I say, listen, do this for 3 months. You're not going to die, right? That's not long enough to change you. You're not going to die. You either feel great and you want to keep doing it, or you don't and you want to go back to eating kale. I don't know why you'd want to eat kale, but maybe that's what you want to go back to doing, right?
I loved kale. Oh my God. Oh, I loved it.
Yeah.
But I had irritable bowel. I had bowel bleeding, hemorrhoids, kidney stones, migraines, everything. Mm-hmm. Carnivore, 2 weeks, gone, done, never again. And so it's, what do you usually, how do you start people on this? It's okay. I'm a standard eater, Zac, and I've got all the bowel bleeding, the arthritis, the kidney stones, the migraines, or I'm just not feeling my best. How do you usually kind of give some direction?
The direction I start with, actually, it sounds bad, but I hit them over the head with information. And it probably feels like that because some of the things that I say to people, like, I'm not going to eat vegetables because they're toxic. And then they say, wait, what? What do you mean by toxic? You mean like pesticides? And I say, no, inherently vegetables are toxic. All vegetables exist on a spectrum of toxicity. So it's not whether or not one vegetable is more or less, or vegetables are toxic or not toxic. They all are toxic, and we are either more or less adapted to handle them, right? But why should I eat a food that I have to do something to in order to make it not toxic for me to eat, right? Because red meat is the least toxic food on the planet, right? Inherently, there's some things that we've done that could mess that up, but maybe, yeah, we don't know that, right? But inherently, vegetables don't want to be eaten, and why wouldn't they, right? That's biochemical warfare. That's how they can't just get up and run away. So they have to use mechanisms to stop from being eaten. There are more vegetables or plants that will kill you than there are plants that you can just tolerate, right? So, yeah.
And so it's interesting because I always tell people, listen, like to kill a cow, a wildebeest, right? It would be really hard with your hands. Let's go get them. I'll get them myself. They kill lions all day long, right? And yet to kill kale is really easy. So once you kill the cow, oh my God, the best thing ever. But once you kill the kale, it's beginning to kill you. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting. Jenny says that as sees her nutritionists or doctors tell her she's going to die on carnivore pretty much. And a fertility specialist is against it. And I know how, I always tell people obesity causes no disease. If you're skinny and there's a famine, you're fertilizer. But we get fat to survive the famines. The best genetics ever created is the get fat gene. Insulin resistance doesn't exist at all. The cause of insulin being high is what? Sugar.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's simply, see, we've got the conundrum of our brain that we call something insulin resistant, and then we're blaming insulin for disease, and yet our stupidity that it's so stupidly simple. Occam's razor says simple answer is the one. The simple answer is that carbohydrates elevate your insulin so the carbohydrates could become fat, because if you don't get fat for the famine coming, you're fucked.
you're in trouble. Yeah.
You're in trouble. And so glucose, number one, is not the energy of the mitochondria, nor the muscle, nor the brain. Never. All right. Insulin resistance is stupidity, because a complex carbohydrate, how long does it take to digest in your bowels?
I have no idea.
Days.
Days. Okay.
So if you've got a complex carb sitting in your bowels for days and it's simply putting sugar into your bloodstream, what's your insulin going to do?
Going to go up.
Okay, so now you already know that if you fast for a week or you go straight on carnivore, what happens to your insulin?
It's super low. I get my blood work checked once a month. It's always super low.
It's super low. And so for the last 3.5 million years, this is pretty much all you and I ate, because we know how to hunt. But if you didn't know how to hunt and you said you didn't like meat, I always say you become the meat or the fertilizer for the plant.
Yeah.
Again, this is the part of the story is, and that's why I kind of, it sounds like you have a similar, you can't argue with a pig, because a pig likes the mud. But all we can do in this is coach and cheer and teach, which is pregnancy, pre-pregnancy, no matter what your disease is, the diseases are all caused by eating what?
Too much carbohydrates, too much sugar, too much glucose.
But it's also not just the glucose, it's the plant chemicals. So the abortion pill and the birth control pill are made from what?
Plants. Do you know that they used to use stevia as a birth control?
Look at, right. I don't touch stevia. I don't recommend it. If you're going to use a sugar, it's cane sugar. A little bit from time to time, all the time is deadly.
Right.
But that's why drinking sodas all the time you're just keeping the glucose coming, and glucose causes glycation.
Right.
Glycation damages the glycobiome. I don't know if you've heard of the glycobiome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The glycobiome, when it's damaged, we're dead. And the glycobiome protects the bowels. The bowels, when the glycobiome is damaged, the microbes go in. And I tell people that the probiotics are deadly. And ultimately, would you put bacteria and yeast inside of open wound?
No.
But that's essentially what we're doing, because the gut is leaky, because the mucopolysaccharide layer is damaged, and now we're adding bacteria and yeast to our bowels. And does that make any sense at all?
Not at all. This is another thing that I always tell people. They say, what supplements do you take? And I say, nothing. I take food, right? And I've also noticed that, because I check my blood sugar probably 3 or 4 times a day just to watch what certain foods do. And I can tell you that powdered proteins, even collagen protein, spikes your blood sugar, okay? Because it's already broken down and it immediately gets absorbed and some of it gets converted to glucose, right? But what you were talking about earlier, one thing that I've noticed that works with people, so I don't try to convince people that what I'm doing is right. What I do is I convince them that I believe that it's right. And that is what makes the biggest difference for people, because when they see me and they see my story and how it's made my life better and how it's affected my family and the people around me, they want a part of that, right? So there's that mental connection that they're missing from the food that they have now, right? So that works. When people see that it, we can explain this stuff to them all day long, but when they feel it and they say, wow, I want to feel like that, I want to have that lifestyle, that's what converts people. Right. And it works.
Right. So if you're a member of a football, basketball, baseball, or any team, you got to have a coach and to inspire you to do the work. And you kind of, you have mentors in life. We're all looking to someone that we admire, and certainly your addiction, which again, so many people, we're all addicted. And that's what it really is. And we need to be inspired by another human being that's been on the journey. Tell us a little bit about your exercise routine and how that's been incorporated in your carnivore conversion.
Right. So I've always been, five times a week in the gym since I was probably 18 years old. And one of the things that when I initially thought about carnivore, everybody was saying, oh, well, you don't have the same amount of energy. And I was like, well, that sounds kind of weird. I don't really understand that. So when I first started doing carnivore, it was probably about 2 weeks before I balanced out and had regular energy. Once I got to the gym, I realized that my strength and my stamina was the same. I also quit pre-workout, which was a huge change. That's pre-workout. So like pre-workout's it's got like caffeine and all kinds of stuff in it. And it's terrible for you. There's
a substance.
Right. It's a substance. Yeah. So, and I was like, well, yeah, maybe they're right, because most people that go to the gym, they're doing this, or they're taking caffeine, or they're drinking coffee, and then they're going to the gym, and they say, well, I'm not getting these bursts of energy. Well, bursts of energy really doesn't mean that I'm getting anything done. It just means I'm sweating and my blood's flowing faster, but I'm not necessarily getting better results because I'm having a burst of energy. I like the sustainedness that I have. I can go to the gym and work out for hours and I feel fine. The other thing is I never get sore ever. I mean, and I can lift heavy, go to the gym for 2 hours, the next day, nothing. Right. And that's huge difference from what before. I used to be sore for 2 or 3 days, delayed onset muscle soreness. I don't even know what that is anymore. Right.
Comments. Jen has talked about being on carnivore keto for eight days and feeling lethargic and nauseous and no appetite. Just feels awful. Tell us a little bit about your thoughts on your coaching in that arena.
Right. There's a period of time that's not going to feel great. And I think that's, anytime you give up something that's not good for you, we go through withdrawals, and that's something we have to deal with. And I tell people, are you going to delay going through this just because you don't want to feel bad for this short period of time when afterwards you're going to feel amazing? My withdrawal period was pretty long. It was about a month and feeling not so great. So some of the things that help with that is to eat fat. I realized that when I was feeling bad, a little bit of fat would actually make me feel, even if it's like a spoonful of butter. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think butter is really, really a great source of that. Some people will do ghee, or they'll do lard, tallow, collagen. But I love a really great butter, Amish butter, Kerrygold, French butter, because I think some people can't do butter or cream. So that's where the tallow and lard and ghee, the tallow and lard come in.
Right. So I actually just discovered that cheese, dairy, and probably butter are extremely inflammatory for me personally, because I went through a long period of time during carnivore that I was doing shakes with heavy cream, and I love it. It's amazing. It's delicious. But I started noticing a few things, and also some markers on my blood work came back with some inflammation. I'm saying, well, where's this inflammation coming from? My wife's like, I don't really know. And then, I actually stopped cheese and dairy about 9 days ago, and I don't have any body fat, and I've lost about 7.5 pounds total. I measured again today. And that's water weight.
Everyone has body fat.
Right. Well, yeah, you know what I mean, though.
Right. I mean, if you have no body fat, you're dead.
Right.
I want everyone to know that, because fat is not the cause of any disease. What you eat is the cause of all disease. That is it. Right. And because people think, oh, I'm obese, somehow we've got to eliminate this term BMI. And whatever size you are perfect, because your body shape, size, whatever it is always the gift of God. And whoever you are is like the best. Attitude, I always say, is number one in this universe. And faith in God, whether you're Jewish, you're Muslim, you're Buddhist, you're Hindu, you're Christian, or you're atheist. And ultimately that's why I think your coaching is like rock on amazing, because you connect with the human being. And I love, this technology of, I got my Instagram filming you and I on Facebook and YouTube. Right. And we have people from Australia, from all over the world. that really is quite remarkable. I mean, I love to travel, but my personal bias is I love to be home in the cave, eating my steak and
That's the other cool thing about carnivore that I've noticed is that the community is not only does everybody want to help each other, but we're all kind of have this like connection that I don't see, especially don't see it in vegans, and I don't really see it in vegetarians. It's amazing, right? I've made so many cool friends and so many connections and have been able to help people. And it's like the coolest thing in the world. It's just something I've never experienced.
Meetups. I love it. I'm going to my first New Jersey down in July 16th. Kelly Hogan, Elisa Wiederman, nice. Just, you know, and there are more. And I'm learning. I mean, again, I've been this carnivore for 10 years, but I was slightly afraid to really, you know, sort of inspire people to do it. You know, I've written books on keto carnivore now for a while, but I'm seeing so many on this game changer. And let's see, no appetite, 6 days. Listen, how many people would wish for no appetite, right? But ultimately, once you really get through the week 2, 3, or 4, where the withdrawal, we're withdrawing from cocaine, heroin, marijuana, and plants, which remarkably, heroin, cocaine, marijuana, nicotine, caffeine, and alcohol all come from plants, right?
All drugs derived from plants originally. I mean, every plant has a side effect, right? The only meat does not have a side effect. At some point, even, you know, something rice or broccoli has some sort of impact on your body. You have what it, you know, it has a side effect always.
So protein sparing, what's your thoughts on protein sparing, lower fat? Often a lot of people in the carnivore keto space do lean meat, and most people in the keto space are doing some carbohydrate, but the lean meat carnivore, you have any comments on that?
I've had chicken once in the last 8 months, and I didn't like how I felt. And it was actually chicken wings, so it should have been more on the fatty side. I just don't have a desire to eat that. You know, if it doesn't have a lot of fat on, I notice it doesn't really fill me up and make me feel satiated, which is what I'm trying to do, right? I'm trying to eat so that I can go do other things and not have to worry about eating. So I tell people to avoid those unless there's just something that you really, really, you know, like, and then you can add fat to it. Then that's probably fine. If you're like, you know, I can do carnivore. I really, really like chicken. I want to eat chicken all the time. Then I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. It's a lot better than eating plants, right?
So rabbit starvation, chicken starvation, turkey starvation, ultimately, and even fish is lean, and I don't recommend it. It's fatty meat, steak preferably, but you can do pork and lamb and goat, but you got to eat the fat because it's eating the fat that reduces inflammation in the gut, protects the glycobiome, plus fat that you eat it reduces inflammation all over your body. And that's the one thing that most people just haven't figured out yet because we've been so anti-fat. And that's why it's critical. If you're fat and there's a famine, you're in good shape. If you're skinny, again, I got into this because my sister died of diabetes at age 52, a little over 15 years ago. And my best friend, Dave, a 52-year young doctor, healthy, amazing, dies of lymphoma 3 months after diagnosis. And yet he was healthy. The answer is why?
Too much insulin too often.
Nope. Remember, the deadliest thing we eat is a plant. Has nothing to do with insulin. See, we've been duped. The cause of all disease is a plant. Glucose is number one because it glycates everywhere in your body. Number two is the plant antigens, lectins, oxalates, phytates, and more that are like dust and dirt. They just deposit everywhere in every single cell of your body, and they elicit what? Inflammation. Number three is the plant chemicals, heroin, cocaine, marijuana, nicotine, solanase. I go down the list, curare, and ricin all come from plants. And as you mentioned, listen, the medicinal plant doctor for thousands of years was responsible for the poisons that kills your neighbor, your friend, your husband or wife, or your enemy, and also birth control pills, abortion pills, and also the medicines that cure us of what? Our diseases caused by plants. And then the fiber and the carbohydrates in the small intestine and the large intestine are fermenting. Fermentation in our gut is for a ruminant, not for a lion. Right. And so the cause of colon cancer and almost every disease in America, in the world, is simply fermentation in the gut, in the whole gut. And we are feeding the gut the bacteria and yeast that come with the salad, that come with all the fruits, fiber, vegetables. And again, you may be the healthiest person in the world, but you are silently causing the diseases that ultimately damage infants. They damage in utero babies, because if the mom is eating the same thing that we've all been taught to eat, it crosses the placenta and it damages. And I believe it's the leading cause of infant sudden death and all sorts of birth defects and genetic disorders in the world.
Yeah, I would venture to say that 99.8% of disease is caused by the same thing. And
I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
It's 99. It's not 99.8.
It's 100%. It's 100%. Okay.
Listen, my part of it, look at why one person and not another. I don't know.
Maybe for something that we don't know of, right? Something
well, my theory is everything is electromolecular. Okay. See, people don't understand the electrical currents through our body, which are driven by the proper glycobiome. The lipid layers of your cells are spread out with proteins and glycans that are critical to the function of your entire body. The neurons are covered by a neuron sheath that is part of the glycobiome. When the glycobiome is damaged, the negative charge of the sulfated and heparinized molecules in the glycobiome damage the conductivity of the nerves. And, again, this goes back to heart disease. When the electrical system is damaged due to the same 5 things that we've already mentioned: sugars, chemicals, antigens, fermentation, and excessive exercise. Excessive exercise. Mm-hmm. Listen, we are lions. Lions never exercise. They hunt. They never say, you know what, I'm too heavy, let me burn off some of these calories. That's the stupidity of humanity, because ultimately the I want to be skinny, your brain is saying, you idiot, why would you do that to me? And so your body is fighting it. The leading cause of damage and disease is a diet to lose weight. Never do that. Diets are deadly. You are fat, you are fit, stop trying to lose weight. We all know that if you go straight on carnivore, if you do the one meal, you'll feel the very best. One meal, one snack, okay, but fatty meat, you will drop the excess calories. Why? Because your body is like amazingly healthy.
Feels good.
And it takes 2 to 4 weeks to eliminate the toxins in the bowels that are part of the digestive. I call it the human digester. It's a compost heap. Compost heaps smell bad. And number one, if you put chicken and fish in a refrigerator for too long, what's it going to do?
Dry out.
It's going to smell like shit.
Or it smells
right.
Yeah.
But if you put a ribeye steak in there and let it dry out, it's going to dry age. Right. It's going to be the rockin' very best and amazing. My butter and my fat that sits on my counter for weeks never, ever, ever gets bacteria or viruses or anything. Mm-hmm. People don't know that the healing nature of life is to eat the fat. And that's why the fat meat content should be about 50-50. because the only way to reduce the inflammation in your body is eat the fat. But what have we been told not to do?
Don't eat fat.
Don't eat fat. Now, this might be a masterful manipulation by the money men, women, maybe, that basically as long as you're eating a lot of carbs and no fat, you're going to get sick. You're going to need a doctor. You're going to need a drug, a dissection, a diet. And the deadliest thing people are doing is this dissections to make your stomach smaller.
Yes, that's terrible. And the one thing that I see a lot of clients is weight loss is their reason for getting into it. And I repeat verbatim, I was like, listen, say to yourself, you want to change your relationship with food, because we started doing what we're doing now. And the reason we're all sick is because we were lied to. And the reason we were lied to by people that were logistical people with business, not health experts. Right?
I think so. If I feed a dog, if I feed a lion or a wolf in the wild plants, they become a domestic dog and cat.
Right.
Domesticated humans. See, it's interesting. The United States Department of Agriculture has a journal on plant poisoning. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
So the livestock industry cares about livestock because if livestock are dead, there's no money in it for them. But if human stock are damaged, there's more money for them. Because remember, if you're damaged and diseased because you eat plants, more money for us because you need a doctor, you need a diet, a drug, a dissection. And what is our recommendation to heal you? Plant-based diet, all right? A Impossible Burger or a Beyond Stupidity. Again, let's be real. As a doctor, I said, fuck it. Sorry for my language, universe, but we have been lied to. The universe is in your control. We are just coaches and cheerleaders. We're not giving you medical advice. We're saying, hey, you want to get to the point where a 66-year young, getting younger every day, feeling his very best ever. Listen, I poop once or twice a week. There's almost no more toilet paper anymore. It just like walks by. And again, no one wants to talk about this stupid shit, but all of us piss, poop, fart, and burp, right?
Yeah.
And I don't use, and maybe some people are going to say, Kiltz, you need to use a deodorant, but I don't sweat. I don't feel like having this anymore. And my energy is only getting better and better. Hi, sweetheart. How you doing? Who's this?
Okay. This is Zoe.
Hi, Zoe. How are you?
You tell them what you like to eat meat, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Love to eat meat, right?
She loves steak. That's her favorite. She'll actually prefer the pieces of the fat first, and she'll want me to cut that off and feed it to her. She loves it.
Well, think about pemmican. Remember, the energy for our body is fat. The anti-inflammatory molecules of our body are fat. Every cell of our body is made of mostly fat. Your muscles are made of mostly fat. So this idea that we have no fat is that's impossible.
Right.
Because see, the problem is we measure and we then say to people, well, your BMI is too heavy or you have too much of a pinch here. And listen, again, polar bears must get fat like bears in order to be fertile. And when a bear hibernates for 6 months, they neither lose muscle mass nor do they lose bone. Because the only fuel for your body is fatty acids. That's why breast milk is the only food for a baby infant. Then once they're done with that, the only food for any human being beyond breastfeeding is this. Again,
So I was gonna stop you for a second. So Zen, he's actually sleeping over there on the couch. He's 18 months. He was breastfed, since he was born. Zoe, let me finish talking, okay? He was breastfed from when he was born. As soon as he stopped, he's basically kind of coming off now. He went straight from breastfeeding to eating red meat. So he's probably one of the first babies in a long time to do that, right? So
well this is if we want to save our future, we need again, the cost of healthcare is going up in Canada, in Australia, in everywhere in this world. but it's the human toll of the depression, the anxiety, the addictions, which basically we're addicted because we are hurting so much. We're looking for something to help us feel good. Okay, so you come to the doctor and, write your prescription. I mean, I tell people, listen, I'm not here to write your prescription. If you are willing and you are excited to do a carnivore for your fertility, for getting rid of the brain fog, the depression, the anxiety, the bowel problems, the eczema, the psoriasis, MS, rheumatoid psoriasis, Parkinson's, ALS. And interesting enough, and I'm probably boring a little bit of people with this, but genetic predispositions to ALS and MS and CF are actually nearly eliminated if you are on a pure carnivore diet. And I believe, again, now this is my opinion and belief, that the diseases that we are developing because of genetic predisposition are because we're in the wrong environment. If you take a fish and say breathe air, or take a human and say live underwater, like that doesn't. No. In my sense, if you tell a lion or a wolf to eat grass and grains like a pig, cow, sheep, or a wildebeest, you're going to be damaged and diseased, and you're not going to live a vibrant lion-like life.
Every person that I talk to, I tell them, I say, look around you. Do they look well? Even the people, and skinny is not health. I mean, look at me. I'm 37. I have the startings of heart disease, right? And I've been in the gym my whole life. So everybody would say, oh, absolutely not. So the deviation from our species-specific, species-appropriate diet is the reason why we're all sick. It's so obvious, and that's why this diet, it basically cures everything. I've seen other people say other things that it's helped them in my group, and it's like, I didn't even know that. That's great. That's amazing.
But Occam's razor, the simple answer is the one. What do we really want in life? All right. We want to be flattered, fed, and you know what the other answer is. And ultimately, sex and reproduction and fucking is both basically our foundation of life for all beings, right? If you're not reproducing, again, you may not think, oh, I ever want children, but ultimately our drive in life is reproduction. Right. But we are so damaged and diseased. And ultimately, this term, I'm addicted, right? Like you have some faulty DNA or genetics, or you have a faulty anything. It's not true, right? Right. It's just like cancer, IBS, Crohn's, every disease in the ICD-9 book is basically, as you said, it's all caused by you're eating a deadly diet. And I hate the word diet, really optimal.
Yeah, I always say that too. I hate, because it's
diets
not
are dead.
Right.
And ultimately, if the goal is to be skinny and a famine's on its way, that's a stupid thing to do. But I always say, if your goal is health and wellness, and in the mind, the mouth, and the master miracle machine is carnivore, but carnivore is a high fat, and truly it's a low to no carbohydrates. Now, again, each of us picks, I think, again, a little bit of a treat is once you repair the mind and the body, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah.
Let's see, is carnivore for any age of life?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, so I would say now, I mean, both of my kids, and they're pretty young, are most of what they eat is either steak, eggs, hard-boiled eggs, or some variant of, and their actual behavior has improved since they've started this, especially for my older one who's 4. She's craving less sugar and like reacting emotionally, like less reacting emotionally when something bad happens or something she perceives as bad. She responds to it a little bit better. And it's like night and day difference from the other kids that we see. Like she goes to the daycare at the gym, and all the girls at the daycare, they're like, hey, these kids are great. Like, what do you feed them? And it's like, that's exactly it. Like they say, what do you feed them as a joke? Yes. And it's like, they don't realize that they're right on the money, right?
Right. This is ultimately my shirt. I mean, like, do you need anything else than this? This is it. And it is amazing how, but again, I'd say what you're doing is it's leading by example.
Mm-hmm.
Simply leading by example. And I think maybe this idea, well, you have a food addiction, or you have an addiction of alcohol, or you have an addiction of a drug, which actually I don't believe it personally. Again, if you keep believing in something they're telling you, it's leading again with the language of addiction. But if you lead with the language of you're a healthy human being, loving, kind, generous, and grateful, you believe in the highest power of the universe, which is God, which ultimately, if we look in the mirror, guess what?
It's us.
It's God. Right on. And you know, my job as a physician, again, I suffer from migraines, bowel problems, ADHD, OCD since I was a kid. Probably, the colic. I mean, what is the standard diet for an infant or even a newborn in this world today?
It's the stuff with the soybean oil and stuff in it, whatever the stuff that we're running out of right now.
It's actually the formula.
Yeah, that formula has soybean oil in it. That's disgusting.
It's the formula of control.
Mm.
As long as you feed a lion and a lioness a plant, you're fucked for life. And you are again, because it makes you feel good.
Mm-hmm.
But then you need it all the time, right? And then like, I don't know, the majority of the jars contain a plant product, right? And we've been led by the pharaoh, the pope, the priest, the professors, the presidents, the CEOs, the masters, right? That, let's see, the last I looked, the masters eat this,
mm-hmm.
and the masses eat mush, oatmeal, cereal, pasta, bread, salad, kale, and fiber. The history of fiber is Burkett wrote a basically nice story, and everyone believed the guy because he was an expert, right? So Zac, I'm sorry, what makes you an expert at all this? I mean, who do you think you are? I mean, look at, I'm a doctor. Are you a doctor?
No,
you're not. I mean, come on. You didn't go to school and get a PhD and an MD to know anything about the optimal human nutritional solution. What gives you the right?
Where I came from versus where I am now, I want to share that with people. I want other people to be able to feel great, and to have come from the very bottom to where I am now, and to know how easy it was. There's no reason for suffering.
And in my world as a doctor, and I know Dr. Ken Berry is the lies I really learned as a doctor, which ultimately we've learned. It's sort of, I'm spiritual, and I believe in a philosophy that comes down from a religious spirituality. But the real leaders of the world that have effed us up in so many ways is strictly because they're telling us to eat grass and grains, and they're eating meat, and it's deadly.
Mm-hmm.
Deadly.
Absolutely.
Listen, I've been an hour with you. I really, I know people like Zac, and every single person on this journey with us, they're the experts. If you're relying on a degree, forget it. There's only one science experiment.
You know what? I did a video on YouTube yesterday. I have a YouTube channel where I kind of share some thoughts. Studies are done to manipulate behavior. They're not done to inform you on health. They're always done to create some sort of push towards whatever it is they want. And all studies have a controller who has a bias. And that, if it's basic particle physics.
I'm going to end my Instagram now, because otherwise I'm not going to be able to save it. Okay. So, and I'm going to just finish up. We'll get to that in a minute. I apologize.
No,
I'm a researcher. I've written papers. I've published, and publish or perish money drives the publishing ultimately for all sides here, unfortunately. And I've been sued for a scientific publication that ultimately I'm finding that most other scientific publications are just snake oil. I call science snake oil. And I'm sorry to say that. Lies, damn lies, and doctors, science, publications. And the problem is people think that statistics and data, look at, if you think a doctor and a publication is the right answer, no, it just ain't there anymore. Social medicine, social media, we are the game changer. And I like Sean Baker is inspiring to me. Ken Berry, Judy Cho, it's just the list goes on and on and on. There are too many people now. We're connecting the dots to people who have an experience of suffering, and your suffering is strengthening. And I do my light stuff. I'm nearly my high school weight. I can do things that I did at high school that I feel 20. And I'm sure that's what you're sharing, Zac. And how can people find your inspiration, by the way?
They have to feel it. I tell people to try, because you have nothing to lose. You can always go back to what you're doing. If you try this, and yes, there's some things that are going to be difficult, but you don't get anything worthwhile if you don't do some stuff that's difficult. If it's not, if it's too easy, it's not worth it.
Right. So anyone can do easy, watch TV and inject heroin, cocaine, and marijuana, but it is every one of us through people like Zac and Rivera Health that we need coaches and cheerleaders. Bella, Steak and Butter gang and gal, and Raymond, and there's so many people out there that the list goes on and on and on. And
it's getting bigger.
And that's our job right now is whether you're keto, look at keto's a great place to start. Paleo, great place to start. But if you want to get into the super class, the master class, it's meat, isn't it? Like, why is the problem with shortage of baby formula?
I when that happened, I was like, at least our kids will be safe from this poison for a little while longer.
Well, it really is that we're learning if you rely on formula to feed your baby. And interesting enough, a standard American diet recommended by standard American doctors in the global world, really, it's not just America, is the cause of inability to breastfeed, because the carbs diminish the glycocalyx in the breast glands and ultimately destroy them. So all those chemicals, the glycans and everything, are really, really, really damaging all of us. What channel can we find you on, Zac? And how can we get inspired to find your coaching, cheerleading, and inspiration?
On Carnivorous Z is my handle on YouTube and Instagram. And then I do have a Facebook. I have a business with my wife. It's a coaching program. It's called H3, Harder, Happier, Healthier. And it's based on a carnivore diet and some other like health aspects and biohacking and stuff like that. So I have a Facebook group there. You can search H3.
H3 is what?
Harder, Happier, Healthier.
Harder, happier,
healthier.
All right. And ultimately the inspiration you're giving. And I think we're going to talk to your wife pretty soon. I think I've got Sean Baker tomorrow, and people that inspire others to change. That's really it by an example. So
Dr. Kiltz, I wanted to say thank you. And I want you to know that, if you ever need help with anything, I'm here for you, and keep doing what you're doing. Absolutely.
Well, we are creating more of the network, Kiltz's network, really. But listen, I am not doing this alone. We're all doing this together. But coaching, cheerleading is critical because we all need mentorship. And I know I had mentors throughout my life. And, there are plenty of people that I kind of listened to and watched and read, and which drove me to this place. And as a physician in the healthcare arena, our job is health care, not hurt care. And if you don't need me to have a baby to become fertile, or which is really what you are already, take away the plants, which are the which are the birth control pill and the abortion pill. I'm sorry. Like, and power bars and protein shakes are deadly. You know, you want to go to eggs, bacon, cream, butter, like, and for me, it's salt, but it's local and natural, and it doesn't have a label, right? And do you measure? Do you like go, okay, I've got to have this much protein and this much fat? And
that's when you sit down to eat a steak, the first bite is the best bite you've ever had. And then by the time, you know, once you've gotten halfway through, it's somewhere you're like, okay, this is enough. I've had what I need.
And there's so many great, I mean, I buy Snake River Farms, but there's so many great local, tell them you want the fat, and that's critical. I mean, eggs are like, okay, egg yolks, and doesn't that cause heart disease?
Absolutely not.
Right. And my bet is, again, even the test, see, I'm not a tester personally. I say enough of the test, because you get a test and oh my God, wait a minute, that's not where it's supposed to be. Then you worry, and then you're like, oh my God, maybe it is this carnivore diet is like deadly, right? So ultimately, if we get rid of the tests, get rid of the doctors, now again, all power and respect. Interesting enough, a significant number of family practice doctors and doctors are leaving medicine before they're 50. They're burnt out,
right?
Because they're not providing health care. They're like, they're drug dealers.
That's the only thing doctors can do right now is, you know, cut you or prescribe you a drug. That's it.
And so how do we see? I think we need to inspire more those people that want to go into medicine, go to medical school and residency and fellowships, and in their practice of medicine. Listen, there's always going to be plenty of people that need the Western medical care, and they're just, hey, Dr. Kiltz, I don't want to hear about a diet. I don't want to do it. What's your thoughts? And I know, I apologize, you probably have kids and things, maybe just a few more minutes.
You're fine.
How can we like turn the science and healthcare and medical care and the pharmaceutical world, like to maybe think and help in this journey? Because don't we really want our children and our grandparents and our parents and everyone not to get cancer or all these diseases?
Absolutely. The big thing is the dogma. It's the paradigm, right? We have to stop looking for somebody else to tell us what works and to feel and to go back to what it feels like to be human. That's it.
So we've got to be the inspiration, maybe to be the roar and the wolf.
Apex predators. We've got to bring that energy.
Apex predators. So Zac, let's keep chatting and keep sharing. And yes, we're going to be referring. We need some coaches and cheerleaders, and we're going to refer to, again, this is the tribe or the community or the gang or the crew, the carnivore crew, may be the right term for all of this that we're all in doing together.
Yeah, we're the ones that's going to change the world. I mean, 100 years ago, bloodletting was a good idea, right? I mean, think about what we're going to look back for on 100 years from, 100 years in the future and say, what were they doing?
Right. And we'll see you in the gym a little bit. I think motion is really motivating. It's very critical to do that. Yeah. But God bless, and
thank you so much. I appreciate everything.
Some more, okay?
All right, we'll talk soon.
All right, God bless.
Bye.